If you believe real heroes don't need medals, parades, or recognition to matter, make sure to like and subscribe, because some stories deserve to be remembered long after the noise fades. Marissa Cole never expected her day to unfold like this. At 29, the small-town bakery she owned in Pine Ridge was her refuge, a place where the rhythmic kneading of dough and the warm scent of yeast rising filled the air like therapy. The customers came in and out, some chatting about the weather, others content to quietly sip coffee as they glanced at pastries, never knowing the woman behind the counter was no ordinary baker. Most knew her simply as Marissa, friendly, quiet, with a soft smile that seemed as reliable as the sunrise. What they didn't know was that her calm presence was built on something far heavier, a past buried in cold nights and classified missions, never meant to see daylight. Today, like any other, she woke before dawn. Her hands moved methodically, pulling trays from the oven, smoothing loaves of rye and sourdough, while the soft hum of the bakery's ancient ovens provided the soundtrack to her morning. Outside, the town still slept, unaware that the quiet life they took for granted was balanced on the edge of something far more fragile. Her radio, resting in a corner near the cash register, remained silent, gathering dust like the relic of another lifetime. It had been years since she last touched it, years since her rank mattered, years since captain meant anything beyond a distant memory. But beneath the worn surface of her apron, tucked carefully away, was the hardened precision of a soldier trained to see what others overlooked. The way her eyes scanned the small details, the slight shift of shadows near the window, the almost imperceptible creak in the wooden floor, the subtle pattern of frost gathering on the glass pane, reminded her that vigilance never stopped, even in civilian life. Her phone buzzed softly, a casual message from a regular customer about an early order. She responded with practiced ease, fingers steady despite the way her mind weighed heavier concerns. Pine Ridge, after all, was miles from any military base, far from classified operations, and even farther from danger. Or so everyone thought. But then, without warning, the radio crackled to life, cutting through the silence like a lifeline. Her breath caught. A voice, calm but undeniably urgent, came through the speaker. Captain Cole, frost line in effect. Immediate recalibration and status update required. Marissa's heart didn't race. There was no panic, no hesitation. Only a quiet certainty she hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge in years. The voice belonged to Major Reynolds, a contact from her service days, someone who knew what was at stake and trusted she still carried the skill to navigate it. Her hands moved automatically, almost as if no time had passed at all. She stepped behind the counter, away from the warm glow of ovens and customers who glanced up in mild curiosity, but quickly returned to their pastries. No one recognized the shift in atmosphere. No one saw the old military jacket she slipped over her apron, its fabric threadbare but serviceable, each patch carefully preserved. Her voice, measured and calm, responded, "Copy that. Standing by for coordinates." The message repeated, now sharper, more insistent. "Captain, the frost line is advancing at double speed. Civilian supply routes at risk. Immediate intervention required." In that instant, the bakery was no longer just a business. It became a front line. Her radio, once a forgotten piece of equipment, now throbbed with purpose. She tapped into secure military channels with the precision of a soldier, her fingers flying over worn buttons. Data streamed into her mind as if wired there from years of habit. Terrain maps, satellite feeds, weather patterns shifting faster than expected, temperatures dipping into the dangerous zone where roads freeze solid, stranding vehicles and people in the middle of nowhere. The customers remained oblivious. A young couple smiled over their coffee. An elderly man read his paper. None of them noticed the change, the subtle tightening of her jaw, the way her eyes sharpened as if preparing for battle once more. For Marissa, this wasn't about glory or duty anymore. It was about responsibility, about knowing, deep in her bones, that when others slept, someone had to stand guard. What no one knew was that buried in the drawer beneath the register, alongside flour bags and spare napkins, was a sealed shadow box, untouched since the day she walked away from the military. Inside were medals for missions classified long before she returned home, and a letter, yellowed with age, signed by a general. one she hadn't dared to read in decades. Until now. Her eyes flicked briefly toward it, the weight of unsaid stories pressing in. The radio crackled again, louder this time. "Captain, we need that recalibration. Lives are at risk." Marissa's lips parted just slightly, a breath of acknowledgement, before she spoke. "Coordinates incoming. Stand by." And somewhere, beyond the small town, the frost line continued its silent advance, unaware that someone, baking bread at the corner of Main Street, had already begun the fight to stop it. Marissa's hands moved with mechanical precision as the coordinates arrived over the crackling radio. The data spilled onto the small digital screen: latitudes, longitudes, expected freeze times, and supply convoy routes now imperiled. She didn't pause to reflect. Reflection was a luxury she left behind the day she stepped out of uniform. Her mind raced, calculating, prioritizing, as if every second counted toward a mission she couldn't ignore, even though no one around her knew it was underway. The bakery's normal rhythm continued, blissfully unaware. A bell chimed as a regular customer walked in, a man in his 50s who ordered the same black coffee every morning. A teenage girl laughed quietly at a joke her friend told across the counter. None of them glanced at the military-grade radio now pulsing softly beside the cash register, nor did they suspect the gravity behind Marissa's steady breath. She pushed open the small drawer beneath the counter, retrieving a folded tactical map worn from years of field use. Its corners were frayed, edges curled, but its content remained clear. This was no ordinary bakery, and today was far from ordinary. Her fingers traced the path of the frost line creeping southward, a thin yet deadly boundary advancing faster than meteorologists had predicted. Every curve, every slight shift on the map reflected hours of unseen calculations from her time in cold weather operations. Marissa understood this line wasn't just about temperature. It was about people stranded in the open, convoys frozen in place, and critical supplies unable to reach their destination. "Coordinates verified," she announced into the radio. Her voice was calm, unwavering. "Initial frost point measured at grid 57J. Expected freeze crossover in 37 minutes. A pause. Then Major Reynolds responded, clipped, professional, as if no time for pleasantries existed. "Understood, Captain Cole. Civilian convoy is moving along Route Delta 7. They'll need clearance past Checkpoint Echo by 0430 hours to avoid complete blockage." Marissa's eyes flicked to the bakery clock, 0423. Time had become her enemy and her ally. Without hesitation, she adjusted the frequency, linking directly into the local municipal emergency network, the kind of channel reserved for disaster response. A lifeline buried deep in bureaucratic systems, rarely used but never forgotten. "Echo checkpoint," she relayed, her tone carrying authority and experience. "Stand by for recalibrated clearance path. Advise drivers to maintain steady speed. We're adjusting the thermal sensors in your region to accommodate unexpected frost acceleration. I repeat, maintain speed, no stops, proceed direct." Outside, the town of Pine Ridge stirred in ignorance. Children waiting for school buses, elderly residents tending gardens, and delivery drivers idling in parking lots had no idea their fates rested on decisions made in this quiet corner of a bakery. No headlines would report this moment. No applause would echo. Just cold, silent responsibility. The radio hissed again. "Major Reynolds to Captain Cole. Sensor recalibration accepted. Stand by for confirmation." Her fingers moved rapidly, inputting precise commands into the handheld interface, overriding outdated municipal systems designed for far less urgent needs. This wasn't standard protocol. It wasn't part of any customer service checklist. It was survival. Her military training, honed in the most remote and dangerous environments, had taught her that lives depended on precision, not bravado. As the recalibration took effect, the radio crackled one last time with confirmation. "Captain Cole, frost line adjustment accepted. Route Delta 7 secure for convoy passage." Marissa exhaled, the smallest of sighs, and straightened. Her body relaxed only slightly, though her mind remained sharp, as if waiting for the next call. She returned the tactical map to the drawer, alongside the unopened shadow box that remained a silent testament to her other life. A life of classified missions, unacknowledged victories, and secrets that weighed heavier than any metal. Just as she wiped flour from her hands and moved to serve another customer, the radio stilled. The urgent voice was gone. The bakery returned to its familiar quiet hum. A bell rang as a delivery man walked in, completely unaware of the frozen highway out there, now navigable because of a woman who never sought recognition. Marissa glanced at the shadow box once more. No one in Pine Ridge would ever see the medals hidden within, or the letter signed by a general, a personal commendation recognizing a mission never publicly acknowledged. No one would know how she recalibrated emergency sensors from behind a bakery counter, or how her radio crackled alive with orders that saved lives. Because this was no act of heroism. It was simply what duty had taught her. When no one is watching, someone still stands ready. The sun dipped lower, stretching shadows across the quiet town of Pine Ridge as the afternoon folded into early evening. The bakery, bathed in the soft glow of incandescent lights, smelled of fresh bread and vanilla, a place of simple comfort that seemed untouched by the urgency that still echoed faintly in Marissa's mind. Customers trickled in and out, laughter mingling with the clink of coffee cups and the shuffle of feet on tiled floors. To them, she was just Marissa Cole, kind, competent, reliable, a young woman who made pastries with quiet pride. But something had shifted that day. An invisible current had passed through the shop when the radio crackled to life, a reminder that not all battles were fought on distant fields. Some battles unfolded in silence, without applause, without headlines. And when they were won, no one even noticed. As the last customer left, Marissa finally allowed herself to breathe. She stepped behind the counter, her hands folding over one another, staring at the radio now silent. The hum of the oven seemed softer somehow, the air warmer, but still heavy with unspoken truth. Her eyes flicked toward the shadow box tucked away in the drawer, waiting. It had remained sealed for decades, a collection of medals she never displayed, a letter she never opened. Tonight, something inside her shifted. Not pride, not regret, just the quiet understanding that some things don't belong hidden forever. With deliberate calm, she opened the glass panel, the small click of the latch echoing softly in the empty shop. Inside lay the medals, bronze, silver, insignia of covert missions, recognition for sacrifices no one would ever read about. Beneath them, folded carefully, was the yellowed letter, its edges brittle, ink faded but still legible. Her fingers trembled just slightly as she unfolded it. To Captain Marissa Cole, your service, your dedication, and your unwavering judgment in the field have saved countless lives and prevented disasters no one will ever know. The missions you completed under Directive Omega 9 were not for medals or recognition. They were for duty, for country, and for those who cannot speak for themselves. Signed, General Samuel P. Vance. A faint smile touched her lips, a smile not of triumph, but of quiet validation. The letter wasn't meant for public eyes. It wasn't a story to broadcast. It was a reminder, a personal acknowledgement of the invisible line between sacrifice and recognition. Her radio crackled again, not with orders, but with a simple status check. Captain Cole, all systems stable. Civilian convoy passed safely. No further frost threats expected in this region. Copy that, she replied, steady, firm. Thank you, Major Reynolds. She clicked the radio off, letting the silence settle around her. The moment hung there, not grand or dramatic, but infinitely profound. Outside, the first stars began to appear. Pine Ridge remained unchanged, ordinary in its quietness. A place where no one would ever know how close they came to being cut off from the world. Marissa straightened the medals one last time, then closed the shadow box. It wasn't for display. It wasn't a trophy. It was a promise, sealed in glass, tucked away, not for her, but for whoever might stand in her place next. Later that evening, as the bakery's lights dimmed and the streets emptied, a small, black SUV pulled up quietly near the curb. The door opened, but no one stepped out. Instead, a faint breeze stirred the edges of the closed bakery window, as if the world acknowledged that today had been different. Somewhere, miles away, another officer checked their screen. The frost line had stopped. The convoy was safe. Lives were unbroken. But no one wrote about it. Because real heroes don't need medals. They don't need headlines. They don't ask for thanks. They simply bake bread. They answer the call. And they remain ready.